Zachary Bennett adjusted the strap of his duffel bag and exhaled deeply as he stepped into Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. He merged seamlessly into the early morning crowd, just another traveler among the sea of passengers flowing through the terminal. That was intentional. No private lounges, no red carpet today. He wasn't Zachary Bennett, the CEO of HorizonJet Airlines. He was simply Zach, a man flying coach to Chicago. His plan was simple: observe, evaluate, and understand the customer experience from the ground up. Zach had always believed in leading by example. If he truly wanted to improve his airline, he needed to know what it felt like to be just another traveler. As he approached Gate C-23, the atmosphere shifted. A white supervisor wearing the standard HorizonJet uniform stood near the counter, scanning the crowd with a sharp gaze. His name tag read Brian Turner. His stance was tense, his demeanor alert. Zach had barely looked up at the gate screen when the voice came. "Excuse me, sir. Are you in the right place?" Zach turned to meet Brian's narrowed eyes. "Yes. HorizonJet Flight 317 to Chicago, right?" Brian studied Zach's outfit: jeans, a plain gray hoodie, and sneakers. Something about him made Brian uneasy. "Can I see your ticket?" Zach hesitated, then handed over his phone displaying a digital first-class boarding pass. Brian scrutinized the screen longer than necessary, tilting it, checking it again. Passengers were flowing through without issue. Some barely showed their boarding passes. But Zach? He was being examined like a counterfeit bill. "Do you have ID?" Zach's jaw tightened. "I already cleared TSA." "I understand, sir. But I need to verify." A blonde woman in uniform, standing nearby, leaned in. Her name tag read Claire Simmons. She whispered something to Brian, whose expression hardened. "Sir, I need you to step aside." Zach exhaled slowly, keeping his temper in check. He looked around: a businessman in a navy suit, a teenager with earbuds, an elderly couple holding hands. None of them were being stopped. A few feet away, a young black man in a leather jacket, Anthony Reed, watched carefully, his phone angled subtly to capture video. The camera lens peeked out, barely visible. "Is there a problem?" Zach asked, his tone calm but direct. Brian shifted. "We've had reports of suspicious activity in this area. We're just following protocol." "Suspicious activity?" Zach offered a strained smile. "And does protocol mean stopping only certain passengers?" Brian opened his mouth, but before he could respond, two uniformed officers approached. "Sir, we need you to come with us," Officer Harper said, his voice firm. "Just a quick additional screening." Passengers whispered. Some pretended not to notice, others stared openly. Zach could have ended it there. He could have flashed his business card, revealed his identity, demanded to speak to the airport manager. But he didn't. He simply lifted his chin and followed. 10 minutes later, Zach sat rigidly in a sterile, windowless room. Officers Harper and Klein loomed over him. "Mind telling us what you were doing at Gate C-23? Harper asked. "Boarding my flight. Like everyone else." Klein scribbled on a notepad. "Do you fly often?" Zach arched a brow. "What kind of question is that?" "Just establishing details." "You mean like the fact I had a valid boarding pass and was stopped for no reason?" Harper leaned closer. "You can cooperate, or we can escalate this." Zach met his gaze unflinching. "You already have." Back in New York, HorizonJet headquarters was in chaos. Lisa Chambers, the company's COO, had just stepped into a conference room when her phone buzzed. "We have a situation. Check the video." Her stomach dropped. A video had gone viral. Black man harassed and detained at DFW for looking suspicious. Turns out he's Zachary Bennett, CEO of HorizonJet Airlines. Hashtag racial profiling, hashtag discrimination. Lisa watched in stunned silence as the clip played. Brian, Claire, the officers, and Zach, calm, restrained, but visibly frustrated. The board was already gathering. She hit the call button. "We have a problem." Back at DFW, the security room door swung open. Brian Turner entered, pale. The airport manager followed. "Mr. Bennett," the manager said, visibly nervous. "I sincerely apologize for this misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" Zach's voice was dangerously quiet. Brian's phone buzzed continuously, notices, messages, missed calls. His face was drained of color. "Effective immediately, Mr. Turner and Ms. Simmons are relieved of duty," the manager announced. "Wait, what?" Brian blurted. "You can't." "You're fired," the manager replied, flatly. Zach didn't flinch. No satisfaction, no gloating. Just fatigue. He adjusted his hoodie. "I'll be leaving now." And this time, no one stopped him. Outside, passengers were still whispering. Some had seen it unfold. Others had already seen the video. Zach kept walking. His phone buzzed relentlessly. Lisa, executives, reporters. Lisa, call me. Crisis mode. Unknown number. Mr. Bennett, I'm with NBC News. Would you like to comment? Group chat. We need a response. ASAP. Zach walked into the nearest lounge and ordered a double espresso. Days later, Zach received a call from an anonymous source, an employee at Northlift. They set you up, the voice said. Who? Daniel Price. He's Northlift's senior VP. He met Brian Turner 5 minutes before the incident. Check the footage. The call ended. Zach leaned back, heart racing. He called Lisa. Get security tapes. Gate C23. All footage. All logs. Now. The footage arrived. Zach watched in silence as Daniel Price leaned in close to Brian at a coffee stand. They weren't just chatting. Price handed him something, an envelope. This wasn't racism by accident. It was premeditated corporate sabotage. Lisa and Zach met in person. You ready to make this public? We're not just going public, Zach said. We're going nuclear. The next morning, the internet exploded. Leaked emails, video evidence, and whistleblower testimonies confirmed Northlift had orchestrated the entire ordeal. #Northlift sabotage was trending worldwide. Their stock plummeted. Their board panicked. Martin Blake resigned by midday. But it wasn't over. Zach launched a bold new initiative, the Air Equity Alliance, an industry coalition uniting airlines, civil rights groups, and lawmakers. Their mission: rewrite national aviation policies. The FAA held an emergency session. Zach spoke on national television. This is bigger than me. It's bigger than HorizonJet. Every passenger deserves dignity, and I won't rest until it's law. 1 year later, Zach stood before Congress. His testimony inspired bipartisan support. The Air Passenger Dignity Act passed 91-9 in the Senate. It was the first time since deregulation that civil protections were strengthened at the federal level. CNN called it the Bennett Standard. Final scene. Zach stepped into a packed auditorium. HorizonJet was announcing its new pilot training scholarships for underrepresented communities. Families, students, executives all rose in standing ovation. He took the mic, pausing for a beat. I was once treated like a threat for simply existing in a hoodie. Today, we create pathways so no one else is. We fly together, or we don't fly at all. Thunderous applause. Outside, a small girl in aviator glasses tugged at his sleeve. Mr. Bennett, I want to be a pilot one day. He knelt to her level. And you will. Just don't let anyone tell you where you can't fly. He looked up at the sky, smiled softly. And for the first time in years, Zach Bennett truly felt free.